Hey guys, before we get to the episode today, let me tell you about Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, I like Anchor because it's free. The Joshi Pod is a passion project of mine, and free is a good word when you're working on a passion project. It's also really helpful because there's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. I had zero experience podcasting before I started this podcast, so Anchor's very easy to use tools were very helpful for that. Also, Anchor will help you distribute your podcast. You can go be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts from pretty much. And you can also make some money on your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Either go to anchor.fm to get started or download the Anchor app, guys. Start your passion project. Get going. Do what I did. Go to Anchor. Start your own podcast. Let me be a guest.
How can I say this? I was compelled to wrestle. I wanted to do that and be that, but at the same time, I knew in my heart it was going to be a part of my life, but not all of my life.
Ohayou gozaimasu, konnichiwa, konbanwa. For whenever you're listening to the Joshi Pod, your weekly podcast about the world of Japanese women's wrestling. Joshi Wrestling. I'm your host, Eric Howard, coming to you from beautiful San Diego, California. And what a week it was this past week for the Joshi Pod. Maki Ito was the most downloaded episode by far from any other episode ever of the Joshi Pod. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. And I can't thank Maki enough for that. If you're one of the people that haven't heard it yet, please go back and listen to it. She does a whole interview in English. She proves why she is the cutest in the world. And she's got a pretty foul mouth as well, but we love her for that. But again, thank you guys so much for making last week's episode the most downloaded episode so far. Gonna try to keep pumping out some good episodes for you guys, including this week's episode, which we have part 2 of the conversation with Kris Wolf. The first part of the conversation we had was her going over to Japan, and it ended with her waiting for Act Yasukawa to come back from injury. And we kind of start off from there and go. We get into a little bit of a deep conversation. It's not all fun and games with Kris. We go a little deeper. We talk about life and philosophy and where we belong and are we where we're supposed to be and things like that. So it's a real fun conversation. It's a deep conversation at times, but Kris is awesome. Of all the people I've talked to, I think this is going to sound terrible. I apologize to the other people that have been on the show. But I really enjoyed talking to Kris Wolf about life and about her experiences. And she's one of a kind. And she's this week's guest. Because the conversation with her is so long, I'm not going to go into a review this week again. We're going to get back to that next week. In the coming weeks, I'll let you know we have people like Gon Shamu, we have Mitsuru from Gato Move, Tokiko, Emi Sakura, and who knows who else coming up in the coming weeks. I'm working on some other big stuff, you guys. I don't want to jinx stuff until it actually happens, but I'm trying to get some more current stars and keep that going a little bit. Mix in the current stars with some of the legends of the past and put fun episodes out for you guys every week. So this week's episode is sponsored by Quiet Wyatt Designs. If you need a logo for a t-shirt, a podcast, or anything else, please reach out to Nolan and the team at Quiet Wyatt Designs. Search for them on Facebook at QUIETWYATT, one word, Designs. You can also find them on Twitter at QWD_official. And they also have a website. Visit QWDofficial.com. So guys, again, thank you so much for downloading, listening this week. Thank you for downloading last week's episode with Maki Ito. Follow me on Twitter at the Joshi Pod. Thank you. I can't honestly, guys, thank you enough for supporting my podcast, supporting the show, and supporting me. And enjoy this second part of the conversation with Kris Wolf. Arigatou gozaimasu. Hey guys, it's been almost 2 months to the day since Kris Wolf has been on the Joshi Pod. It's almost like it's an entirely different world from 2 months ago to today. But I thought it was fitting to have her on this week as it's been a year since she retired. And since you guys have been hounding me since she's been on the podcast to do the part 2 of the conversation with her, welcome back to the Joshi Pod, Kris Wolf.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, humans. I am inserting my silky smooth voice into your ears. Does it tickle?
The deep voice.
Yeah. Sorry, like before he pushed record, I was drinking my coffee and commenting how it's kind of like an ASMR session. And then we started like, he said something about, what was it? Listening to someone suck their teeth. And I didn't understand who sucks their teeth and how does one suck their teeth? Like, is that sucking teeth? I guess really nervous people must do that. I'm more of a fan of like biting. Nervous biting. Anyways, hello.
Biting your nails, or what do you bite?
My lip, other people.
I've seen that before.
Yeah. Some habits don't die. Actually, I realized that, I mean, I guess I know, but I forgot that prior to wrestling, I would bite my friends regularly. It was a thing. Anyways, puberty.
Like a friendly bite or like a angry bite?
I guess both, you know. We're complex creatures with many ranges of emotions and well, I can't speak properly because I haven't fully had my coffee, so apologies.
So it's late in San Diego right now, and it's early where she's at in Norway. So we're on the like complete opposite sides of the spectrum here as far as time goes.
What is time? What is space? I mean, I don't even know anymore thanks to this Corona world.
All right, so I'm going to ask you an uncomfortable question since I'm a great interviewer here to start out the interview. It's the most uncomfortable question, right?
Okay.
So as soon as this episode came out and people listened, the first episode came out and people listened to it, they wanted you back on the podcast almost immediately. Why do you think you have such a relationship with fans that they like you so much?
Oh, Eric, didn't you know? I think it's because I put my silky smooth voice in their ears.
No, just in general, you're just like you're lovable. People love you.
You know, that's really really nice to hear. I think I'm glad. I don't. I'm thinking about this, so I apologize if it takes some time as I process things in my head. Also,
I start you with the easy questions.
Thanks, Eric. My processor isn't fully awake yet, and I'm running with an old one. I think, you know, I say it's nice to hear because like I remember and I remember growing up feeling really awkward, and I think everyone does. I mean, right? Like life is weird, and then you're suddenly full of feelings and you don't understand why you don't fit what people are telling you to fit for one reason or another, and you're like, A plus B is supposed to equal C. Why doesn't it? Why don't I equal C? You know. So now, what was my point? Ah, shit.
Do you think the wrestling community is full of people like that? Like the fans and stuff?
Totally. And I think there's more people out there. I don't know. I think wrestling is such a wonderful place because you see all the different shades and all the grays and all the colors. You know, it's a place where math doesn't matter. But
so I'm asking a question. So are the fans the awkward? I'm one of those people too. Trust me. Are those people are they people the same in America and England and Japan? Are those all the same people that are wrestling fans?
I mean, I think. Oh, okay. Sorry. Again, waking up the processor.
We're going deep early.
Yeah, right. This is your first question. It's like
getting harder from here.
Cushioned with philosophy. Or maybe I'm just taking it there, and then there's a much simpler answer. Often there is. I'd I'd say yes, but at the same time, like all that's the kind of thing that unifies people in general. I think I am that part, or I'm expressing that part of people that is unsure and overwhelmed and just trying to keep going. And so maybe that is something that connects with other people because I am just like, this is all of the things inside. Ha! Do you have it?
I think that this is why I like you. I'll tell you this. So I think you come off as somebody very genuine and very kind-hearted and very real. You know that you're a wolf, but you're a real person.
Hmm.
If that
I don't
makes
know.
any sense.
Well, it's your show, so you can make the rules.
Yeah. But that's why I like you. So I mean, I'm guessing that many other fans feel kind of the same way. Is that you just come off as a kind-hearted and genuine person, and we can relate to somebody like that because a lot of us either want to be that or are that.
Hmm. I'm glad. I appreciate that. And hmm. I mean, sorry, like once you start asking about the reasons why a person is this way or our action that way, I start to think about this existence and I start to get overwhelmed. But I, I like, okay, fuck, just erase that part because I don't know where I was going. Also, you didn't erase any of the parts that I said you should erase. Damn you, Eric. Jeez.
Because you come off as a real person, and people like that. And I'm telling you, people love that you're the way you are. So I'll say that. I'll say, actually, I won't say people. I'll say me. I like you the way you are. So
I appreciate it.
I
Thanks.
because I can 100% relate to it. So all right, on to some more fun things here.
Oh, bring it on. Oh
let's
God.
get let's get to less deep stuff. Um,
I don't know if I
all right.
trust you on that
You probably shouldn't.
one. God. Okay, let's go.
This is not the podcast about hammerlocks and springboards and stuff.
I wouldn't be the one to talk about that stuff. I'm like, don't try to fall.
So when we left off our last conversation, we ended up talking about Act Yasukawa
Hmm.
and how you were waiting for her to come back. You were going to quit wrestling, but you decided to wait for her to come back.
Yeah.
So how triumphant was it? How nice was it when she came back to wrestle?
Oh man, I felt like my face was peeing the entire time. My heart exploded all over. Um, it it meant a lot to everyone that was there, I think. To me, to the people in the faction, to the people in the group and the fans. It was a really triumphant moment for her, and I was just really lucky to be a part of it.
So I'm guessing you were part of the process of when she was recovering and stuff as well. You were kind of around and maybe when she started training to get back in ring shape as well, you were kind of around for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Olive Oedotai at that time would visit her while she was in the hospital. It was me, Heidi, Loveless, and Hudson. Sorry, I sometimes switch into their real names in my head, and I'm like, nope, not that one. And Dragonita and Kimura, and we would go to the hospital and see her. I already said that, but yeah, it was hard to see her there, but it was good to see her training again when we'd have practice. It took a lot of time for her to get back. It was months. I can't remember the timeline, but I remember waiting really long.
It was almost exactly 7 months later that she came back.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that
Yeah.
feels about right. Like a lot of people had passed through by that point, and I was really happy for the foreigners that did because they really did brighten my days.
To have somebody from an English speaker around.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was kind of the thing too that was special about the dorms, you know. You're in this small community with other people who are doing and training in the same thing that you are. And you have all the different personalities. So, of course, that's kind of hard sometimes. But I think for the most part, it just became like, is family overused? It was just so fucking fun hanging out with people who were pretty crazy. Like, I don't know. I feel like living in a dorm situation in general helps foster some really close and intense friendships. So I think the foreigners that came through ended up, whether they know it or not, supporting me through a really hard time where I was just doubting what I was doing and not sure if I should keep wrestling or not,
Hmm.
They just made things fun.
So you guys got to travel to California as well when after she came back. What was it like to be able to travel to the U.S. with her and kind of show her a little bit of California?
It was a lot of fun. It was really great to show her the beer because that was the one thing she kept talking about. She was like, "Nomitai, nomitai. I want to try that alcohol." And she was amazed at the cheap ass prices. um
There's a picture of you and her in a hotel drinking, ironically enough, a Corona beer that I just love.
yeah. Yeah, like I remember we were so tired after we got off the plane, but like the whole group had to make a couple stops. And we were all traveling with Rossi, and Rossi stops by like at Toys R Us and picks up some WWE dolls, which was really cute.
He's
And
a
then we
fan.
all got
He's
to,
such a fan.
yeah, I mean he does love wrestling. Um, and then we went and got some food. They were amazed at the buffets. They were just, they couldn't fathom the amount of food that was available. They were just like, oh. But
They
then
realize why Americans are overweight quickly.
I guess they probably did. They were just like, whoa, this is impossible. But then they took us to, oh, I think, was it a Walmart or something of that nature, and everyone just grabbed supplies for the evening, food, or Act immediately went for beer. I was just like, oh, okay, that's where you went.
It's crazy how we like because I took my niece to Japan one time and when we came back, well, when we got to Japan, we just talked about how excited she was when she got there.
Yeah.
And then when we flew back and landed in LAX and we saw some Japanese people that were on the plane with us, I said, those people feel exactly how we felt when we landed in Tokyo,
Yeah.
about how they're just like, kind of in awe of what's going on. So
Yeah,
I'm guessing they kind of were the same way, right?
absolutely. I mean, I do remember feeling reversed culture shock the first time I came back to America. I was like, oh, there's so much space in this store. Like, why are the aisles so wide and there are so many products? I mean, there's tons of products in stores like Don Quixote, but like in a regular convenience store or supermarket, the products are more limited, I'd say,
Mm.
in not like a billion different shampoos.
Don Quixotes are pretty fun. I barely fit in the aisles in those places.
Oh man, it's a trip. I get really overwhelmed in them. There's just too much stimuli, and
Uh-huh.
I get overwhelmed in general in malls. So I'm just like, oh dear God, I need to get to the fourth floor, but this is only the first. Will I ever make my way out?
So the experience in the States was positive for her.
Absolutely. I think we had a really nice small get together. It was kind of like an Oedo Tai meetup, and we got to talk to some of the fans, and she got to really, I mean, I had a friend that was there that spoke Japanese, and she helped like translate. Like my Japanese is okay, but add some alcohol and more English speakers, it just deteriorates. But it was really nice to have my friend help her make those connections on a deeper understanding level with people who just love her.
Yeah, people do love her too, which I love. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So she retired just a couple of months later.
Mhm.
What was the process? Did you speak with her about the process of her deciding to retire, or was it like she had to retire, it just wasn't working out?
Yeah, like she knew it wasn't going to be for too long. She couldn't see so well out of one eye and was still trying to do the same things that we were doing and that she had done. Mm, but she had, I think she had already come with a plan to say her goodbyes with management, and yeah,
Mhm.
it was the comeback was short because it was basically to say goodbye.
Mhm. And she said goodbye, and you were in the match where she said goodbye.
Yeah.
How was that last match on the 23rd of December?
It was a lot of fun. It was, we did our spots and played with each other's characters, and she got to wrestle with the same people that she came into the business with. It was Kairi and Haruka,
Hmm.
um, as well as Oedo Tai at the time, which was me, Kimura, and Holidead. So I don't know. The energy was definitely something special. I don't think I've felt that in any other place. And I've been to some really amazing retirement shows. Sorry, maybe I should elaborate on that. I don't
No,
know.
you're good.
Like I think if you've seen the match, you could see just how invested the fans were into this moment for her. They had banners and everything
Hmm.
with her name. People were chanting and crying. So much face pee.
Is that what you call it, face P?
What else can we call it?
So after she came back and retired, I mean, were you like, I'm back in, I'm a wrestler again, I'm committed, I'm ready to keep going?
No, no. I definitely felt a loss. Actually, I think when she came back, I felt more renewed to stay in it. But I think after she left, I wondered for myself, what was I doing? I like there were a lot of times that I felt joy, and wrestling is such a high. But I think anyone will tell you that it does take a lot, and there's a lot of self-doubt. There's also, mm, I don't know. It's really, I think I've always battled with a bit of depression or sads,
Hmm.
just kind of existential pain. Like, am I doing what's right? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Why am I not good enough? Um,
This is what we
and
like. This is what we like you, Kris, because we can all relate to that.
I think it's a very human thing.
Hmm.
And I think I didn't really realize that until I left. And I still feel that, like the edges are different. The the game that I'm playing is different, but I think that's just always going to be there in some degree or another. But I remember feeling it sharp, and I remember feeling really happy with my friends were there, but there's also like a loneliness to it too. Mm, I I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, but there was still a momentum that I still felt like I should keep following. And I also didn't know what else to do. I mean, I did have other opportunities to work. I was doing this for a while, this YouTube English learning thing for Japanese people, which was getting pretty popular and successful. Mm, but like, I don't know. I still felt compelled. And I think a lot of the people coming from different countries and who brought in this energy of like, oh yeah, let's go. I'm so excited to be in Japan. I'm wrestling in Japan. It spread to me
Hmm.
because mm, their experience was different. They had already set up their careers in other countries or they've had their training. So they were already coming at a higher level. And I was still a green girl. And I think that also inspired me to keep going. I think them teaching me things also made me really excited to try new things, even though I wasn't allowed to?
Hmm. So, who were some of the people that you bonded with during your time in Japan? I mean, you said the foreign girls that came through, but was there anybody besides Act, some of the other Japanese women that you really bonded with?
Mm, I really I really liked Kairi. She has a soft nature. She's really a kind senpai. Um, and as the years went on, the barriers between senpais and kohais lifted little by little through the time and through me encouraging the foreigners to just hug the Japanese people because like I couldn't because I was brought up in that system. And so it was weird. Like I could hug other senpais from different companies. I would take that foreigner card and be like, bam, but I couldn't within my own company. So it was really strict. But I think through all those hugs, it it loosened them up towards the end. um,
I'm a hugger too. I won't lie to you. I'm a hugger.
that's the best way to be. Maybe not during this time.
No, it's a bad time to be a hugger. Yeah.
Yeah. I really, really bonded with Hiromi as well. Hiromi and Momo. We were all generally in the same group when training, so there was definitely a kind of warmth there. It felt like we all went to high school together.
That was a baby Momo back then.
Yeah, yeah, she was so young. I remember like her hanging out after practice and her playing on my guitar, just like making noise. And I was just like, whoa, you're taller than me, but you're younger? What? Wolves don't understand these things. Um, but
So
and
seeing
then
Kyrie back then, I mean, was it even a thought for those women to like go to America to wrestle? Do you think was it even like in their thought processes? Or we're just in Japan. This is where we're supposed to be. This is where we're wrestling.
mm, no, I think Kyrie always had the dream to go to WWE, and I think Io did too. Um, eh, because that's what inspired them, right? And I
Hmm.
mean, well, one of the many things that inspired them. Wrestling is so big. Uh, sorry,
There's
did I
some.
answer the question?
No, you're fine. Yeah, no.
Okay.
There's somebody I'm always interested in talking about, and I don't really know people that spent too much time with her. But Jungle Kiona
Mm,
seems like a very interesting woman to me.
yeah.
That she got to explore outside of the wrestling. I mean, she didn't start in the wrestling bubble. She actually went away and lived a life a little bit before she became a wrestler.
Mm.
Was she a little bit different than the other girls that were, or other, I hate seeing girls, the other women that were in the company, or did she kind of just fit in when she came in?
I think she had because of her experience and the things that she had handled, she she came in knowing with what she wanted. And so she was also an athlete before she had gone traveling to Senegal. And I think that confidence really helped her kind of like I'd say she's one of the people who takes charge behind the scenes, and she did a lot of organizing and helping. Like she was a really good help to the senpais when it came to logistics and just setting up stuff. I think she's definitely a powerhouse and focused.
So they put the high speed title on you. What's the process like for them, or how do you find out that you're going to be the high speed champion?
I didn't believe it at first. I mean, like I think I had fig I think I thought that I had figured out my place in Stardom. Like this is where it is. And generally okay with that, but I wanted to learn more. At least that's what I felt at that time, right? And I think it was like after some sort of maybe it was after a different show or after a practice and Rossi had showed up. I can't remember, but he like leans over to me and he says, "Next, next Koroakun, you high speed champion." And I'm like, "What?" um, didn't didn't believe it, and he was like, "Yes."
And look who you were in the ring with.
Yeah, what? It was.
It's
I was
amazing.
very glad to be with them because they know their shit.
So the self-doubt and stuff you have, does it Rossi coming in tell you that? Does it help a little bit to give you confidence, or does your mind automatically go to, oh shit, they're going to put the belt on me? The new stress. There's a different stress now, or a different anxiety.
Oh man, I think I didn't even understand what that animal was. It was definitely there. Like I think went more towards the stress, but it's like I could only feel the edges of it, and I had my eyes closed. I had no idea what to expect. All I knew is like, okay, try to do well.
Because I would be personally, I would be the same way. I'd be like, oh, this is wonderful. They have confidence in me. Now I've got stressed. Different. The stress just changes. It's always stress. It's just a different kind of stress.
Oh man. I don't, you know what? Like I don't think I don't know if Rossi actually had confidence in me. I always felt that he just would go at things with whims. It's like, oh, today I feel like doing this, huh? It is done. But likely he does think about it more.
I'm sure he does, because I mean, there was like panic when Kagetsu and she retired. That people were freaking out, but he had a plan,
Mhm.
and they're still rolling along right now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the company has faced lots of upheavals throughout their lifetime. How would you? Is it a living thing? It kind of is, isn't it?
sure, why not? Yeah, it's a
Timeline? Maybe that's better. Whatever. Yeah. Like he always adjusts. I mean, like any group, everyone has different opinions and hopes for the wrestlers, but I think as long as it keeps going, I think it's working.
so this is 2017. You'd been in Japan a couple of years at this point. How
Yeah.
was how was your life, your day-to-day life, outside of the training, outside of the ring? How were you getting more comfortable? What was life like for you in Japan?
Um, it was pretty fun. I think I I spent my days either at practice or hanging out with the girls in the dorms or doing my side gig with the YouTube channel. And that also opened up a lot of different things for me. I got to meet a lot of different people, have a lot of interesting conversations because it was basically just philosophizing with someone on camera and then translating it to Japanese and explaining the phrases. So that was also pretty fulfilling. And there was always just traveling around Tokyo. I think I really missed cycling through the countryside, but I couldn't really leave for too long because there was always shows on the weekends,
Mhm.
which is, you know, it's all good. I got to do my traveling before and after.
So, as a member of the LGBTQ community, what was it
Mm.
like living in Japan? Was there an open community over there? How were you able to live your lifestyle in Japan?
Mm. I mean, like it was in terms of workplaces, it's pretty closeted. So you could, if you were seeing someone, you couldn't say like, "Oh yeah, I spent the weekend with my boo," or whatever. Um, but there was a little gay town in Shinjuku, and that was always nice to go to. I enjoy the nightlife, but it's not my main thing. And I love dancing, but I also have a hard time regulating alcohol, so I would just, you know, blah.
That's easy
Um,
to do in Shinjuku.
I know it's too easy. And Roppongi, it's I think a pretty chill place for the most part, you know. I never felt threatened. I had dated a few people while I was in Japan and holding hands was okay. There was but it's also like not really seen or understood. And I remember my now wife, a then girlfriend, came to meet me at a ramen shop, and she gave me a kiss, and the ramen guy, who's pretty young, was like, "Oh wow, is this how they greet people in other countries?" And I was like, "Oh, what?" And my wife was like, "No, this is how I greet her because she's my girlfriend." And he was like, "Oh," so it's varying degrees of exposure and understanding, but in general, I think people just live their own lives and don't really pay attention to other people. But, there are still stories of people having struggles within the workplace or people looking at them differently or not thinking they're capable or trusting them because they're different. It's an old story, I guess, anywhere. But safety-wise, I always felt pretty safe.
So I
Mm.
talked to Bill Nakano about people always assuming that she was a lesbian.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she told me about that she said that people always thought, and it wasn't until she was on an airplane with WWF at the time, and she was like fawning over some Japanese actor,
Yeah.
and that they finally found out she wasn't a lesbian. I find it interesting that she says it's pretty common, especially in her time, that
Oh,
everybody just assumed that everybody in wrestling or Joshi wrestling were lesbians.
that's you know what? That is interesting. I feel like that's true. And then also a lot of people just assume they're straight too. I mean, I guess it's all on both sides. Mm, I always assumed everyone was straight. Not necessarily true.
I don't assume anything.
I know.
Short haircuts don't mean anything. You know, when people like, because that's what she said. Like some of the girls had really short haircuts, and people just assumed that they were all, So,
Yeah.
but it was an interesting conversation I was able to have with her about that.
It is. It's funny, like the things it's that we see as a definer or a defining characteristic, Like maybe they had short haircuts because they didn't want their hair pulled. Bam!
That's why I cut my hair.
Right? You were spent too much of your childhood having your hair pulled, and now they can't have you.
I got 3 older sisters. Sheesh.
It's good to learn young. I I haven't learned that lesson yet. I still have long hair.
So then you get back to wrestling here a little bit. So then you started exploring outside of Japan. You went
Mhm.
to England for a bit.
Yeah.
How did that possibility come about for you?
Which one was first? I can't. I I think did I visit? I have really really bad memory, as you can tell, but I don't remember if I visited England first or the U.S. first.
You went to the U.S. first.
Okay, yes, the U.S. with Stardom, but then by myself, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So like the times all kind of merge for me. Um, so if I went to the UK first, I think that might have been with Eve, and then they connected me with other companies and I got to work with them. But I think before the UK, I went to the
You did. You went to Stardom in the U.S. first.
hmm And then when did ROH come to play? And then
It,
Rise?
it,
I'm sorry, I'm asking you for my history.
it, it was right after you went to England that you went
Oh,
to Ring of Honor
gotcha. Okay. All right. Here we go.
with a trip
Got
to
it.
Spain in the middle.
Yes. Actually, it was the trip to Spain that facilitated it because I had met the owner of RCW in Japan. And he has some really cool shows. He'll fly out like Joshi every once in a while. He has a nice community, and I think he still does shows like yearly or like a couple times a year just
I
to
think I think I
give
met him at a
the people
Stardom show too. Just as he was just a fan.
likely.
Yeah.
I think he's also like a correspondent for WWE or something, but like for Spain. But you know, he, um, him and the guy who helps with booking foreign talent, like they helped me come over to Spain, and then they helped me come over to England, and then I went back to Japan. That's right. Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry, placing things. Um, Honestly, I I was pretty scared. I mean, didn't know any kind of wrestling aside from Stardom wrestling, and even though I was in the US, I was still wrestling with Stardom, so like I I knew that style. I knew how that worked, and I had no idea what to expect when I first landed in England. Also, never been to England before. Whoa, big buildings, lots of humans. Just I know Tokyo has big buildings, but it's also different types of buildings?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of older buildings in England, and
Mhm.
There's all the buildings in Japan too, but a lot of modern buildings in Tokyo, obviously. So
Yeah, it just felt different, and I think that was really nice because it reminded me how much I love experiencing different cultures because this existence is so vast. To stay in one place, you can really develop something beautiful, but there is a there is value to variety as well. Like I can feel my mind expanding as I throw myself into these situations where I have no footing.
So was it a different experience wrestling in front of British fans? I mean, you're a pretty energetic and energetic's probably the best word to describe you, but you're full of emotions and moving around and jumping around. That might be more catered to a British scene versus a Japanese scene. So how do you think they took to you in England?
Oh man, I hope they had a good time. I really did. Like I felt their energy and it fed me even more. The crowd was so loud and the spaces were different. I could they were often closer to the ring, and so you could really feel the energy coming from their bodies. Um, the the age range was also different. There were more kids in the crowd, which was really neat. There were women, like more women. And I feel like it was really nice to also be understood when I'm saying all this shit. Like when I really liked it when foreign fans were watching me in Japan because they understood what I was saying and the obscenities of it all. Um, but it it is such an interesting art, this wrestling, because while I did feel like I could connect to the Japanese fans, the connection was so much clearer in the Western ones because of the language barrier that
Mm.
existed.
So did being in England give you the taste or the want to go again elsewhere to wrestle outside of Japan? Was it like it's like, ooh, just a little bit of taste. I want more. I want more.
I think so. I think it definitely woke me up from something. I feel like I was reaching a point in Japan where I was finally kind of getting my groove. I was moving better and being allowed a little bit more freedom to do different things. Um, but I think working in the West was just like, oh shit, I could have even more freedom. What is that like? So that definitely did inspire me to travel out. And then simultaneously, I was having visa issues. I mine was coming to an end, and I ended up doing the go to Korea and then come back to Japan for like another 3 months a few times, to the point where it was just like, I can't do this. It's a little unsustainable. If I can't find a proper visa sponsor, then I need to head out.
So Stardom doesn't do that.
They do, and Rossi had offered it, but I think I have a complicated relationship with Rossi. Like I was always a Stardom girl, but at the same time, I did feel like kind of out, kind of separate, and I didn't want to rely on him too much. There's, I don't know.
Do you think it because you weren't Japanese?
Mm,
Not that it's a,
no,
like, I mean, not that it's a racial racist thing or anything like that, but
yeah, no, no,
that you're not one of them. I hate to say that. It sounds
no. I
terrible.
I think it was more of the fact that like I didn't rely solely on wrestling, and that way I could keep my choices my own. Like,
Mm.
maybe slight encouragement would say, "Hey, maybe drop the tail, and wear makeup." And I didn't want to do that, so I didn't do that. Like, I think I had little bits of rebellion where I could, and I think maybe I didn't want to owe anyone anything. I didn't
Mm.
want to owe him anything, and I didn't want to feel like I would have to change things. I don't know if that makes sense,
No, it does.
but
Absolutely.
like he had mentioned it, and I considered it, and I was okay working with him, but yeah, I did feel like I I wanted more control over myself, and I think I got that when I left.
Mm. Can I ask you a quick? You went to Ring of Honor for a couple of shows. Was that where your mom saw you wrestle?
Yeah, that's where she saw me wrestle in Pennsylvania.
That's cool. And I'm sure that was a pretty different experience for you as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was really nice. The crowd was fun. The It was cool to see so many, big names. I had only heard about them from other girls that had came through. A few of them I met when they were in Japan. Mm, but it was kind of like, whoa, this is huge.
And then the next time I saw you live was in California for Rise and AWS.
Love it. Yeah.
So
And that
you and Shotzi got to wrestle.
yeah.
Two Filipino Americans.
hmm
The the bullet clubs, right?
Yeah, the Bullet Club. That's like the one dish that I don't really like eating because for some reason feeling the beak in my mouth is a little off-putting. Or was it the feathers? I'm not sure.
People say, "Oh,
One of the two.
you just drink the juice." You just no, I'm not drinking the juice.
Yeah, I drank the juice. That's actually pretty tasty.
I'm not doing that.
No,
I can't
do
get
it.
I, can't- I can't get past the visual.
What if you close your eyes? I guess close your eyes and open your mouth. That's awful. Sorry. Bad suggestions.
We take that out of context, and I'll pull that quote later.
It is what it is.
So, so wrestling again in America, in California this time, was it again? I mean, it was a pretty lively crowd there as well, and
Yeah.
people loved me. People knew who you were. People loved you, and were they were really into Chris Wolf from the get. As soon as you walked through the curtain.
That was pretty rad. I I feel lucky that people knew who I was, you know? And I felt their energy. The howls got me so excited, and wrestling Shotzi is just so fucking fun. Because she's crazy.
So you head back to Japan. You kind of end your run in Japan. So what was the ultimate thing that made you decide to, hey, it's time to go?
Hmm, I think there were a couple of things. I had my final Japan concussion there, and things were getting really shaky. And then I couldn't work for a bit, so I tried to get like a teaching gig. Like that last month or two were really, really hard. And then that teaching gig had promised a visa, but then it fell through, and they were like, "Well, you fulfilled this school year. If you want to go full time, then we can, support your visa for next year." And I thought, I don't want to go back to being a teacher, just like not a full-time teacher, to stay in Japan.
Mhm.
Um, so I just felt like the universe is saying it's not working here. Try something else. I mean, granted, I probably could have made it work, but I was also worried about that last concussion, and uh, my tour through America, even before I had announced it, I was working through a lot of things and feeling stressed often about my mental health, my my body, my relationship, like just like I want to be mentally there for this person, and I want to be capable. Like, what am I doing that something that will let me do these things that I want? So I was having a lot of deep conversations with myself, and anyone of my friends who is, available to help me sort through things. And I was lucky that people could relate. And yeah, sorry, I was rambling.
No, you're good. I like to talk to people as human beings, and you're being a human being, so I appreciate that. I
This human thing. Ah.
Because I mean, like I said, I'm not the podcast for arm bars and that kind of stuff. I'm more of talk to you as a person where your job just happens to be wrestling.
Mm. Yeah, I think I always felt that too though. Like, how can I say this? I was compelled to wrestle. I wanted to do that and be that, but at the same time, I knew in my heart it was it was going to be a part of my life, but not all of my life.
Mm.
There, I think inside of me, I knew that there was a time limit, and I think other wrestlers knew as well. Like I remember even when I was a green girl, like someone had said like, "Oh, you're not really the type of person that I would expect to be here." Or later on, other people would confess like, "Yeah, I I really loved what you did, but I also knew that there was something else that you were looking for." And I feel like I was lucky enough that wrestling is a part of my journey because it being out of it gives me this opportunity to look into it again, because when you're in something, you can't really see all of the edges and the details, but when you're out of it, you can also examine it in a different way and kind of come to terms or understand this crazy experience. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
Hmm.
So you okay? So you leave Japan. You're kind of doing the world tour here, going to England and to the U.S. and stuff. Did you have an
Yeah.
end date in mind when you left Japan? Like, hey, my career's gonna end at a certain point, or were you kind of just playing it by ear a little bit?
Um, I think I kind of knew it would be in April because April was when I started with Stardom. And I remember it kind of goes back to Act. Like, I remember Act said that, or she was the one who told me that Joshi's get a ceremony after 5 years of wrestling, at least. Something like that. Was it 3 or was it 5? I can't remember. I think it's 5. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that rule still stands or if that was just the rule when she was coming up. But that I think that stuck in my head, and so mm, I knew it would be the last year. And as it got closer, and as my symptoms were getting worse, like if I could have, maybe I would have tried to push it to my August debut date, but I made it to April when I started training, so I think I was happy with that.
So were you dating your now wife at this point as well?
Yeah. Yeah, we had been dating for almost a year before we left Japan. Maybe. I'm not very good with dates. Don't tell her.
I've got it saved on my phone, so
Oh God.
that's my trick.
Yeah, she listens to my podcast.
You're in trouble now.
I know. But I remember, well, I don't know. Well, she knows.
So was she comfortable with you living the wrestling life, or were you guys traveling together?
When we left Japan together and she went back to Norway. So we were doing the long distance thing, which was pretty hard for, I guess, about a year. When I was touring in Europe, I could at least visit once a month. And that was really, really nice, but also so short. Um, and when I was in the US, then it was like about 3 months of not seeing each other, which was hard, but I think it really did something for us in getting to know each other. And I think we always knew that we were all in. That phrase will just always make me think of AEW now. But
So
yeah.
so about a year ago, you had your retirement show. You got your gauntlet 2 minute matches, your traditional Japanese retirement show. Um, so explain to me what the hell happened with the birds and the not the birds and the bees, but the sperm match.
I don't know. I mean, I was given full control over the matches, and I think some concepts were a little bit more fully developed than others. And I think the sperm match was probably the fullest, uh, fullest developed, what most developed. There we go. English is hard. Um, I I was just like, where's the start? Where's the start of it? So, I mean, without going too far back into my grandparents, I thought, hey, why not? Why not have the conception of Chris Wolf? And which wrestlers would Chris Wolf be made up of?
It was awesome. It kind of just was being played again recently on the internet, so it kind of had another little run recently, so it was kind of fun to see.
Yeah. I love wrestling. It's so weird.
I'm learning more as more people I'm interviewing. I'm learning more and more. Like, man, wrestling's just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. But
Com-
I think that's part of the beauty of its creativity.
wrestling companies are weird too. When I'm trying to like interview people. It's an interest. I'm getting a whole education, a different education to the world of wrestling right now. So it's pretty interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So when you left that night, were you like, okay, I'm good, I'm done, I've had my fill, I don't need wrestling anymore?
Yeah, I had been aiming for that moment because I was kind of in a way falling apart until then, you know? It was really hard because I was having so much fun seeing my friends, but I was going through a lot of internal things that made me want to stop, you know?
Hmm.
Mm, So I was pretty ready. I was just sad that I didn't know when I would see my friends again. I didn't know when I like, and not just fans, or I'm sorry, not just wrestler friends, but also fans who would become friends and promoters, and just like missing the people who are a part of the show. It I missed that for sure, and I like watching. I've started to watch a little bit of wrestling here and there again, but yeah, I don't know. I I was ready to go, and I don't think I never. I'm not one to look back. Wolves don't understand what ifs.
So how is civilian Chris or Chris Civilian, whatever you're going to call yourself now, how is she adapting into the real world versus the crazy world we just talked about of wrestling?
Right? I mean, and it's not like I can try to adapt to a world that I'm familiar with. Let me just go to a completely different country where the support is really there, but the rules are more strict. So I can't just get a random job and work under the table until I can get a better job. I need to go through the process. So, oof, civilian Chris is impatient, but laying down foundations, learning Norwegian, have an internship doing writing stuff, which is nice, and kind of trying to help develop other people's social media things, like more like doing the video part of it. Mm, but that's like an internship, so that's like $40 a day. Which hopefully it leads to more things. But I was working in the kitchen, which is interesting because it's a job that you don't take home. So that's also nice. But it's also a job where you don't feel like you're you're spending time growing. I don't know why I feel like I want to make um, every moment matter. Like there was a quote that I saw that humans overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in a year.
That's pretty deep.
Right? That's how we like it. Keep going deep, y'all. Um, sorry, my voice is terrifying when I say that. But with the whole Corona thing, I got laid off. So I, but it's also okay. I don't know. Like I continue to find myself in a place that is unfamiliar, but I am stimulated. It's also terrifying. I'm just here.
The what we talked about when I first interviewed you a couple months ago was I talked about how you took the leap of faith in yourself to go to Japan and how I admired you for that. And I admire you for doing what you're doing now as well, where you took another leap of faith and moved to Norway and went with the woman you love. And
Mm.
that's very admirable. And again, I look up to you because you have the guts that I never had to do anything like that. So I sincerely look up to you for doing things like this.
Thanks, Eric. I
For
look
putting
up to you for making this podcast because that's also hard.
So let's look back. Let's go by every single match you've ever done. Let's go one by one here. No, but just looking back, I mean, are you satisfied with your wrestling career?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's always going to be a part of me that wishes that maybe I could have pushed myself more physically, you know? Maybe I could have been crisper or really like I do feel like I have physical abilities, but it was never as smooth as I would have liked it to be, I'd say. I think I had like moments of shining, like it could really flow, but I couldn't put it all together. I think that's something I would have wanted to work on, but I also feel like wherever I was mentally at the time or physically at the time was the best that I could do. So aside from that, I think I'm just glad I did it.
Yeah, you should be real proud of yourself. So Jazzy told me you were supposed to come to Germany, but again, because of Corona, you weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is doing little appearances like that kind of keep you seeing your friends still? I mean, are you going to do things like that? Or are you going to eventually just, you think, completely disappear into the forests of Norway and to never be seen again?
You know, I wonder about that. Like I still have mixed feelings about being a part of it, and I like it when friends call up and say, "Hey, what do you want to come try just I don't know, hanging out?" And I feel lucky that I can, you know? So I was able to do something like that for Eve, and I do plan on doing it for Jazzy whenever Sirius gets past this Corona stuff. I don't necessarily know if that's what I'm gonna do, you know?
But I
I'm
mean,
still figuring it out. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's you. You're normal. You're a human being. Yeah, we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out as we go, right?
Yeah.
Well, Kris, I want to thank you for doing part two with me. Again, the fans since the day that dropped, they're like, when's part two coming? When's part two coming? And we finally got it delivered. And again, I sincerely, when I say this to you, that I really look up to you. That you're an adventurer. You're somebody that, man, you have all the guts in the world to do what you do. And I, I'm in awe of your adventurous ways. So thank you again for joining us again.
Thank you. I would just like to add to that though. You know, I feel like a lot of it is my energy, but I do owe a great deal to the people around me, like the people who supported me or lifted me up when I wasn't feeling sure or awesome. Just even in like this conversation or mm, all of my friends. I don't feel alone in the things that I've done. I think there's supposed to be a quote about that somewhere. Like no one's successes is their own. It's always tied to other people. At least that's how I feel. Does that make sense? Why must I always ask that question?
It does. No, I
Okay.
mean, it absolutely does make sense because I mean, the way I'm sure people helped you, I'm sure you help people right back.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
On those, we started deep, we ended deep, right?
Oh God.
That's how we roll on here. Again, thank you, Kris, so much, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon. And if not, enjoy the deep, dark wilderness of Norway and run away from any of the ice animals up there.
Oh God. Will do. Thanks, Eric. Thanks,
Thank you so
people.
much.